Welcome to the Media Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vandebacher.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
Hello, Kenton. It's an episode of Media Nerds again, finally, after all this time. And it kind of feels like a waste spending so much time away from this podcast.
No, I don't think so. But when there's new Star Wars content, I think we're obliged to talk about it.
I guess so. I guess
And
that is the deal now.
and I think it was such mixed reviews on the Acolyte. And this week it hit the internet that apparently Lucasfilm isn't happy with Skeleton Crew. They think they're
second guessing everything now.
Yes,
right?
yes. There's some quality control issue maybe with that one too. And so here we are, like we're Star Wars fans, and this is a time where, and as I said, like we'll do a podcast, I think, on the intervention for Star Wars about, well, here's what we do to get to right the ship. So I think we had to talk about that.
I'm not so sure they need an intervention, but it's worth talking about where they're at and how far they've come, and kind of the roller coaster we've had since Disney took over, right? Since 2012. So yeah, that'll be an interesting conversation. But this week, because we've been away from Media Nerds so long, and I think that there's been a fundamental shift in the way we consume content on TV specifically, but it also relates to movies and the way we don't really go to the theaters anymore. I thought it'd be a good conversation to talk about just general TV watching, and ask the question: is it better watching TV now, or the way we watch TV now, than it was 30 or 40 years ago, right? In the 80s and 90s, when TV was arguably at its height of like popularity and had its most viewership for shows, when we had things like MASH getting, tens of millions of viewers and that kind of stuff. That doesn't happen anymore. So those are that's the golden age of television. But was it better watching TV then, or do you think we have a better experience watching TV now?
We have the same experience, except that experience changed when we could record things, and now everything's on demand. So it's hard to say. It depends. It depends on how you're watching what we call TV. But YouTube is worse than TV ever was for interruptions at this point. It's brutal.
I disagree. I fundamentally disagree. I think YouTube
Why?
is TV now. YouTube has become television.
But it's more irritating than TV used to
But
be.
Kenton, I just think you don't like interruptions. You don't like that kind of advertising.
I teach it.
I know, but you don't like it.
I love it. I
it.
love it so much I teach it. But I think YouTube has mishandled that.
I disagree. I think they're doing a great job with it. They've really tried different things.
Oh, please.
I don't want this to be just about YouTube, but I do think that YouTube, like when you look at like where TV is going, you see a lot of, for example, British television. I can go there and find pretty much any British television show I want that's been uploaded. Whether or not it's legitimate or not, I don't know. Unfortunately, that's not always the case, but they don't seem to care as much about it if it's outside their country. But a lot of older shows are also going there. I can go on there and see a 24-hour stream of like old Transformers cartoons or G.I. Joe stuff or that kind of thing from when I was a kid, because those brands, the companies that own those properties, are just streaming them and making revenue off the YouTube live streams. That kind of stuff is television. It is essentially the same thing as what we were doing 30 years ago, right?
But it's worse. It's worse because I'm watching a 10-minute TV show with 15 interruptions with a countdown clock. Like, they're not selling stuff with the ads. Like old TV was actually selling us stuff with ads, and we sat there, we watched it. But what YouTube is doing is pushing people to subscriptions by irritating them with ads. And to me, that's two different strategies.
Well, YouTube seems to do that. Like I noticed that's the first thing. The first ad I get is always like to premium. They always want to push me to premium as soon as I open the app or whatever. Yep. And that's never going to be the case. I've tried it. I don't think it's worth it. I really don't. I think the one thing YouTube could do to really make it worthwhile is to include movies, include a huge lot. They have movies. They have so many movies. They have a small fraction of them are free. We can watch like a little bit of films free with ads, it'll say. But they're awful. They're all really low budget, like really crappy films. You don't see any of the good stuff there. And I think they could make a good selection of older films available for free or with ads, and people would watch them there. And I do watch a lot of movies. A lot of movies I watch on YouTube are just movies that nobody cares about the copyright anymore. Like a lot of old Roger Corman movies are up there. Nobody cares. A lot of old TV series are up there. And so I'll just watch them on YouTube. And the perfect thing about these being old series and the series anyway, is that the commercial breaks are already in there. So they just pause it when it's already been cut up for commercial breaks. You just pause it, insert your YouTube break there, and then it works fine. I think the problem, like maybe what irritates you the most, and it seems like you're watching videos with a lot of ads, and there are people who are like just max those out and cram those breaks in there as many as they can get to maximize their profits. That's too much. And they're probably just sticking them in there mid sentence, right? You get like in the middle of a sentence, bam, to commercial break. That's not great. I think the best YouTube content are the shows are the ones that create with the ad breaks in mind. So they always have a commercial break and they can put their spot there.
But
Anyway,
but
but
YouTube, one more thing, where YouTube used to say you there's skippable ads and non-skippable ads, and and those still exist. What's changed is now YouTube goes, oh, you can skip in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and sometimes you still can't skip,
yes, yes.
and sometimes that is over anyway. So it's just getting your eyes trained onto the screen on the false promise that you can skip when in fact it would go to the program content even if you didn't touch the skip button.
Yeah.
So I just the psychological games being played with that just drives me crazy. It
I
really
don't think
does.
it's
It makes me
intentionally
crazy.
psychological. Like they're
No, I
messing
think
with
it
us.
is.
I think it's a
I
glitch in the system. It's like they're not because I see this kind of stuff all the time. We'll shift it to CBC Gem, which I think you
Yeah.
also use CBC Gem as a
Yeah.
streaming service. I'm probably going to be using it for the Olympics for the next 2 weeks. I was just watching the opening ceremonies of the Olympics in Paris live on CBC Gem on my Fire Stick. I have a Amazon Fire Stick that I use for my set top box. And so CBC Gem also has skippable ads, I believe, don't they? I
I
feel like they
think it's
do.
just ads.
Or maybe they
Well,
don't just have ads, but they'll
yeah.
they'll have what I noticed on CBC Gem is they'll have different versions of ads that are meant for different platforms, but the system doesn't know the difference yet. It hasn't figured that part out. So I'll see, for example, and CBC Gem is because it's Canadian, there's not a lot of advertisers. So unfortunately, we see the same ads over and over again, which is a problem. That's just a Canadian thing, though. That's I don't know if that's ever going to go away for us. But they see this co-op ad. I don't know if you've seen this one, Kenton, where the families, nice happy family driving through the prairies.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
you
I've
seen
seen that.
this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So you see, and they're like, let's who wants the snacks? This is how I felt every time I did a road trip with my family. Boy, I was just like this guy in this ad. Who wants snacks? And the family stops to go get snacks, and they're writing a great review of co-op on their app
Of
and showing
course.
the most ideal experience. But I saw this ad as I'm watching on my TV. I'm watching, on a horizontal format, but I saw the ad both in that format and also cut vertically for a phone. So, and I know that because CBC Gem is also on phone, so they do have ads for that, but they shouldn't know the difference at this point of what as far as what or what platform it's on. So there's little glitches like that are still happening, but I think overall they seem to be getting the sense of here's how we do interruption based advertising. They're still going to try doing it. I think they're always going to try doing that, and we have to kind of accept that it's a part of the content. I'm trying to get my kids trained on it too, and they're so resistant. Luke, okay, Luke loves anime. He loves his anime, so he wants Crunchyroll. Right? Are you familiar with Crunchyroll,
I
Kenton?
am. Yeah.
Okay. And this is hilarious because he's like, Dad, can we get Crunchyroll? And I'm like, okay, well, let me look into it. And I look and I see all these things. Here's what you get with premium. And all the premium stuff says ad free, ad free, ad free. And I said, oh, is there like a free version where you can just watch with ads? And Luke's like, yeah, but there's a million ads and I hate them and they're awful and they're so bad. And I'm like, well, why don't we just try it and see how it is with ads? And then maybe we'll pay for it later. And he just does not want he just is so against it. I'm trying to train my kids to be more accepting of advertising because I think
Yeah.
it's a necessary part of it.
Well, but don't forget that advertising also is showing up as product placements and part of the content marketing. And so, like, it bugs me when a network tries to have its cake and eat it by giving us product placements at the same time it's giving us interruptions and sponsorships, like the Olympics. Live sporting events are a perfect example. It just never stops.
Yes.
And it's like, it doesn't need to be so heavy-handed. Like the World Cup has figured out a way, like you watch uninterrupted soccer for the time they're playing. There's ads on the field, but they've decided that you are not going to interrupt this. At Formula One, they shrink on TSN, they shrink the Formula One action into like a square, like about this big of the screen. And then, and inevitably, that's when something happens. like during the
Of course.
commercial. So then the commercial takes up the most. Then you see a little like car crashing in the corner. You're like, what happened? What happened? Then you come back and then you go to Twitter and everybody's like, thanks for for missing the best part of the race. Like everybody's angry. So
Well,
I think they need to decide what's right for what content.
yeah, but it's also like, for example, I saw that happening during the they were doing that during the live or during the opening ceremonies rather. Actually,
Yeah.
it's funny because I tuned in, I thought, what the hell is going on here? Because they showed, it looked like they had four screens going at once. And it was like somebody who was in the, because this year they're going all in on the Seine River, Kenton. They had this
Oh,
big
I know.
controversy around whether or not they're going to swim in the Seine, whether or not it's clean enough. The mayor and the prime minister or whatever, the president of France, swam. They did swim in the river, didn't they?
Yes.
Someone swam in
Well,
it.
the mayor did it.
Okay, the
The
mayor
mayor
did.
did, I think. Yeah.
Somebody swam in the river, and then the whole opening ceremonies is all happening along the river, and so
Yeah.
all the athletes are in the boats. These boats floating along the river, and so we had a reporter in the boat with the athletes, and they're like, but their bandwidth was not good, so that's like cutting out, and it's like one of those kind of freezing images. And then another one, they've got these drone shots of the boats kind of going around, and then I'm like, whoa, this is too much happening on the screen. It
The
was really, really confusing.
the drone shots were the Canadian soccer team trying to cheat.
No, no,
They're still flying around. They're still recording everything just in case.
but then they
Oh,
cut back and then they go kind of had a better shot of the different stuff, the different things going on. And it was actually interesting. And then they would go to an ad break and they would just make it smaller and have an ad going. So you're seeing more
yeah.
of that kind of stuff definitely during the live events. The one thing I also wanted to talk about was, as long as we're talking about streaming services, is Tubi, which has been one of my favorite streaming services for a while. But recently it came out that it is the most popular as far as users, just people going there to watch movies and TV shows, more popular than the Netflix, Disney Plus, any of the major
What?
streaming services. Yes,
That
yes.
can't
You
be
didn't hear
true.
this? Yes, I'll find the piece.
Tubi is more has is what has more active users than Netflix. I find that impossible to believe.
Hold on a second.
Is Tubi is ad supported video, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, I had it. I had it once because I wanted to see a short film that I couldn't find anywhere else. So I watched the short film and then I canceled it forever.
You
So
don't have to cancel. This doesn't cost anything.
yeah, but you know, they've got all your stuff. They start emailing you basically 1 second in.
You just unsubscribe from those.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I did.
Here we go.
I unsubscribed from the whole damn thing.
Okay, here we go. From the LA Times. Nielsen data show that May was Tubi's most watched month ever, with an average user audience of 1 million viewers, up from 46% from a year ago. The streamer edged out Disney Plus, which averaged 969,000 viewers, and also beat out Peacock, Discovery Max, and Paramount Plus, while topping free competitors such as the Roku channel and Pluto TV. YouTube is the only free ad-supported viewing service with more viewers than Tubi. So, and Tubi is basically, I would say, 90% old content. It's not a lot. They have some original stuff, very little, but it's mostly old TV shows and movies. And I think that's where people are going now for their old TV shows and movies, or free
It
services like that.
it may I think the comparison is probably ad supported Netflix. The people who choose to have ad supported Netflix versus ad supported Tubi, right? That wouldn't surprise me if there's
Well, it
more
didn't
ad
say, you're right.
support.
To be fair, it did not say Netflix in this article. So it said everything but Netflix. And I would argue probably Prime is up there too. Prime is a weird one because they just don't
Oh,
care. They just care about their delivery service, and that's all people are subscribing for. And so they kind of play outside the rules. They do what they want. But yeah, the ad supported service. Now, I have not tried the ad supported Netflix yet, but I'm almost there because I've canceled my Netflix. I've been out more than a month now from Netflix. I don't care about whatever's coming out there. I haven't heard about anything that's come out there that I've wanted to see.
the talented Mr. Ripley is fantastic. I think
Is it a
that's
movie or a series?
it's a series and it's a gorgeous thing. It's beautiful to
I'll
watch.
get
It's
to it.
so well done. And it's also nominated a lot for Emmys, but it's deservedly so. But oh, and there's a couple documentaries I like there. Like there's Tour de France and the F1 Drive to Survive, and just some of the they were early in those sports documentaries where even if you don't care about the sport or you don't think you do, you watch it and it's actually really good.
Mm, mm.
So there's
Yeah.
still a bunch of stuff like that that I watch on there, but And once again, I appreciate the no commercials. It's pretty good.
Well, I mean, when you look at the price though, it's significantly cheaper for the ad supported. It's like
Yeah.
$7 a month or something like that for ads. So I'm gonna try it out and see probably next month whenever my kids wear me down. I'm just trying to hold out because I mean there's a lot out there trying to tell them, look, Pluto TV has the Avatar, the TV show Avatar that my son loves. They've got all the seasons streaming there for free. Go watch that. When there's an ad, look at your phone for a couple minutes, right? They're doing that anyway. Like really, the ad break was always our chance to take a break and go, get a snack or go to the bathroom. Just do that while there's an ad break. Don't worry about it. Just try not to pay so much for these streaming services. And I haven't been with Crave for a while, although I do appreciate their content. And I do think Crave does an excellent job of curating content as far as being like basically it's Canada's HBO because they have all the HBO stuff. And then they also have a good amount of movies and other things that they will put on there. And often they'll try and jump onto trends. And I'll notice things like when they have like Deadpool is probably really big on there. They'll put Deadpool on there when the new Deadpool movie comes out because they know people are
That's
going to want to
today.
watch it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so but they'll do that for like the Fast and the Furious. Whenever that movie comes out, they'll put they have all the movies and they'll promote them and they'll make sure they have all that stuff available. So they capitalize on what's going on in popular culture as far as around movies and that kind of stuff goes. And they have some really good Canadian content on Crave as well. They've got Lady Bird and some other stuff it's excellent. Or Little Bird, sorry, Little Bird is called, not Lady
Oh
Bird.
yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of stuff is great. But I've been without it again. This is the kind of stuff where I'm gonna have to pick and choose what services I want to pay for, and just taking a break from that kind of stuff for a bit. You know,
How about House of the Dragon?
nope, don't care about that.
Oh,
See, here's the thing: I don't care about being involved with everybody else. So that's I'm like obviously I don't care. Like I see, it kind of comes up in pop culture and stuff, but I'm not really engaging in that conversation. And I hear it's good, and I'll get to it
it
when I
is.
get to it.
Yeah, it
And
is.
I'll so it really is getting to the point for me where it's like I will watch it. I'll probably get a month of Crave, and I'll watch it that all in 1 week or something like that. I don't like to binge watch. I still am not a big fan of like watching a bunch in a row, but I like to watch like one episode a day for a week or 2 weeks or something like that. That's a nice way to watch shows. So I might do that with other things. Another thing I'm doing, or with other shows rather, another thing I'm doing is I picked up DVDs of seasons of shows that I know I'm gonna watch, like this, The Wire. I have season 2 and season 3 of The Wire, which I know I know is an excellent. Oh, sorry, this is 3. This is 2. I know this is an excellent show. I've not seen these yet, and it was only like what was this? These are $6 each for the whole season, and it's nice. They've got a nice
Oh,
box and everything.
I owned all of those boxes. I only kept season. I only kept
These are
the
yours.
last season.
Did you give them
Oh,
away
did I get?
recently?
It might be. I could have. I don't know, but
Property of Kenton Larson,
I
555. No, sure.
I only have the last season because that was one that I actually want to watch that one again. I like the way that last season really sews things up.
Okay. Yeah,
So
interesting. And this has got a bunch of like it's got all kinds of like the characters broken down and stuff.
yeah,
So I like this kind of stuff. So I've been watching for more of this.
yeah,
So I'm not so beholden to the streaming services because I just found out I was spending a lot of money on this kind of stuff. And I would go through the same thing with cable, right? Cable used to be the same thing. Where it was like I was spending $100 and getting all these different channels and different packages, and then every once in a while I'd want to cut it because I wasn't using it. I wasn't watching all these different things. And I think that's ultimately what killed cable was that it just was too rigid in its format. And then they're calling it now linear television, right? You've heard that term as far as like cable TV's linear TV. It's where you go to just to watch it in real time when you don't want to watch when you don't want to have a choice over what you watch, I guess. Oh yeah. So as far as the experience goes, do you think you don't think it's better than it was when we were younger, 30 years ago?
what do you mean? Like all
Just
of this stuff as a whole, or do you mean
I feel like, hey, here's the thing. We have all these different streaming services,
yeah,
each one of them putting out their own content. It used to be we would go to the TV, turn on the TV, and just flip through the channels and see what was on. We kind of still do that, but now we have to do it for every app. So we have to go to Netflix and see what's on Netflix, and we have to go to Crave and see what's on Crave, and then to this one, and then like it's like, oh, what are we going to watch tonight? And you're spending 2 hours deciding on a movie, going through all the apps. And whereas before you would just turn on the TV, flick around for a few channels and find something to watch, right? I feel it was way easier, way
yeah.
better when we were younger.
Well, there is such a thing as too much choice,
Yes, that's
and
exactly it. Too much choice.
the band X has a song. called See How We Are, where they go, the freedom of choice in the USA is driving everybody crazy. And oh, and he goes, yeah, there's seven kinds of Coke, 700 kinds of cigarettes. Like, who cares? And so that's sort of what this has become. And I find like I have a list of shows I want to see, kind of like you. Like I don't have a Paramount Plus subscription, but there's 5 shows I would like to see on Paramount Plus, and I wrote them down on a piece of paper. But as time goes by, and this is probably the same for everybody, you're like, I really want to see these shows. I'm going to get the 7 day free or whatever, see as much of this stuff as I can. And then time goes by, and I'm like, nah, dude, I don't need to see the real. And you realize you don't need to really see anything.
Well,
It's whatever you it's what you want to see, but maybe there's too much to see, and maybe any reasonable person would just say, I choose nothing.
well, there's no urgency to it, right? The urgency is
Yeah,
completely
nothing.
gone. And by the
Yeah,
way, you might just wait a few weeks and that might roll into Prime for all we know, or whatever other, it might roll
yeah,
into Netflix.
yeah.
Like they're getting Paramount Plus is in trouble. Didn't they get bought by Skydance or something? There's something going on there.
I don't
And
remember.
it's one
Yeah,
of those things that happened, and it's like they were really struggling. And I mean, I think Paramount Plus was one of those ones that launched too early because I got my 7 day free trial early, and there was no content there at the time. It was very, very early. I should have waited, or they should have waited rather, to build up more content. I had it again recently, and there's more stuff there, and it is good stuff. But again, there's just too many different things. It used to be you paid one fee, one like cable. Here's my cable bill. Here's my monthly payment for one thing, and I can get all these different things. Whereas now they want you to pay for each one of these streaming services separately, and I don't like that. And I think a lot of people don't like that as well. They don't like that it's adding up. They don't like that they have to keep track of all this stuff. My mom is really good at it, by the way. She is great with the Prime. She handles the Prime stuff, and she will like immediately sign up for a free trial or for a discounted month because they've been rolling those out on Prime lately. And then she'll immediately go in and unsubscribe so it doesn't automatically like charge her. So she's really good for that. And she recently used that to do a BritBox subscription.
right.
$3 a month for BritBox. We have BritBox for a month. I share the subscription with her, and nobody seemed Prime doesn't seem to care about that. They're not locking down on locations or anything like that. And so I've been having a great time watching the IT Crowd again, which used to be on Netflix, right? This is where it's gone differently. Like basically the BBC has pulled in all the content that it had licensed out to all these other streaming services, and it basically says this is our content now, you have to come to us for it. And now all these different companies are doing this with their content, and it's just become too difficult for people to navigate, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. It is a lot, and I will like. There's the rare thing that I will seek out, and if there's the only way to see it is to get a 1 month subscription or something, then I will do it. But that's rare. That's like it's probably once every 2 years that I would even bother with that. But also keep in mind, I still have like the cable TV scam is that I still have 1,000 channels because what you realize, and at a certain point you go, wow, this is expensive. I should cut down on the channel. So then you call and you as you start to realize it's always the same cost. It doesn't matter. You can you can cut 10 channels, but the package you have is priced so that it would be about this. It's like you get maybe even a few more in the package. So if you start cutting, you lose the package and then you pay more for fewer channel. So you just get it just becomes this self-fulfilling thing. And there, but I'm of a generation where I like this week there was a fire in Jasper, Canada. And I wanted to stay up to date on that. Now it's true that CBC uploads that stuff online, like it's available a little bit later, kind of stuff. But I still crave the live news, and up until the US election, I'm gonna want CNN, and then after that, maybe not. But it's hard. It's hard. I find it a hard habit to break with traditional cable. I
Now,
like it.
are you still using like a cable box with like a PVR and recording your shows and that kind of stuff?
The, well, the PVR now is cordless.
Right.
But yes, you can if you want to record shows, but everything's on demand, so it's reduced. You don't really, let me think. Virtually everything is on demand, so it would only be the occasional live thing that isn't on demand,
So
you
basically, you
know?
go, okay, it's Sunday night, House of the Dragon. Let's just go, and it's there, and you just
Oh
watch it,
yeah.
basically. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, for the most part, it's on demand.
See,
with the occasional live event or something like that that is not available on demand after the fact.
now, you might not be aware, you're clearly not aware of this, that CBC has been streaming live everything on YouTube.
Yeah.
Their news network, they're doing so much better with this stuff. And I think they're like, there's somebody there at CBC who's niggling away at the people who are being so controlling over news network. Because it's not called, is that called that? What's it called now? I got it wrong last time and I'm self-conscious about it. CBC News Network. That's what it is, right? The
I
news
think
channel.
CTV is Newsnet, right?
I
So
used to
I don't
call it
know.
CTV, CBC News World is what I used to call it. Anyway, CBC NN is what it says in the corner. So I believe it's called News Network. And it's their live news channel, and it's good. It's like I've watched it for years. They do good coverage on that channel, and it is streaming live on, and CNN, by the way, is streaming live on YouTube quite frequently. And other major NBC, other major US networks will stream live on YouTube when big things happen. So last couple weeks, when all these things have been happening with the US election, every single time I went to YouTube and there was a live stream going on that would give me details about it. The Jasper fire, I went to YouTube and saw CBC was streaming live. I got all the details right there. So I don't need to have cable to get that stuff. Right? That stuff's all, that's where YouTube takes over. YouTube, all that stuff can go live. And I think YouTube has made done a good job of kind of like giving TV networks a place to put their content, both live and pre-made, that they
Yeah,
can
but
make revenue from it off the advertising.
sure enough, but I mean, here in Canada, we don't have Hulu, which is part of Disney Plus in the US. Like we're still like being Canadian means missing out on some of this stuff.
Why is
Like,
that though? What has the Hulu content here? Does
oh,
somebody?
it's all over the place. Like, so Handmaid's Tale, like was on the Sci-Fi Network, believe it or
Well, it is
not.
science fiction, I guess.
Well, I
It's in the
get
future.
no, it's not. Well, I guess. So the Sci-Fi Network, but then it went to some other like it's
I
so
thought that
it
was on
bounces.
HBO and therefore it was on Crave, wasn't
No,
it? Here, it wasn't on Crave.
it might. Who knows? Maybe now it
Okay.
is, but it bounces. It that's the
Okay.
problem. Oh, is Bravo? That doesn't even exist anymore, right?
No.
That's rebranded. So it's all over the place. It's hard to find stuff. It's even stuff like you'll look online and it'll go like, oh, this movie's streaming on Netflix. You're like, great. So you go to Netflix and look, and it's not there, and you're like, oh, we live in Canada. That was an American one. It is just it's harder as a Canadian. Like Godzilla minus one finally showed up on Netflix. And I was like, oh, here it is. Like so far, so long after it was available in the US and even streaming on US Netflix. It even took longer on Canadian Netflix. So there's always little things like that. And I always live in fear that I'm going to miss something, that there's something that I'm going to want to see that will not be available. And the occasional thing still in Canada, like still gets by me. I got a list of stuff on IMDb where it's like, there is no reason why I shouldn't be able to find this stuff in Canada. And yet it's unfindable. I was like, I got a few movies like with big actors in them. And you're kind of
Like
like,
these are things that you would have been able
yeah,
to go to the video store and get 20
yes,
years ago, right?
easily, or
Yeah.
stuff, or it played in Winnipeg on a Friday at Cinematheque kind of thing. And you're like, well, I couldn't go that Friday. So how do I find it now? And the answer is you
Movie
can.
Village.
Yeah, that's right. That would have been the answer. But it is being Canadian means sometimes not have missing out on stuff and also not having a clue where you might find it. Like I know there's folks that do you download films illegally? Like there's folks who do that constantly. Me
Not
neither.
anymore. I have done in the
Yeah,
past, and what I found is just more trouble than it's worth.
yeah,
And what I've also found is I don't like watching movies on my laptop. I prefer watching movies
no.
on my TV. And so recently, I actually was asked to review a movie called Coup. And they actually sent me the link through, like, the only way I could watch it was on my laptop, which I'm sure took away from the experience because I did not like the movie. But yeah, anyway, that kind of stuff, like the only way I could watch that stuff was on my computer. It was always like sketchy websites and that kind of stuff. I don't like it. It's always more trouble than it's worth. But the
Yeah.
problem, like, we can talk about movies and their issue. I think part of the issue with movies is that their distribution is all over the place, and you don't know where a movie's going to be. And a movie can become buried in streaming services if you don't know where it's being released and who's releasing it. If you don't subscribe to that service, you would have no way. These things don't generally advertise outside of their own platforms. Like, you don't see well, you might see major American cities, but you don't generally see Netflix billboards around town advertising new series and that kind of stuff in Canada. So I have no idea what's going to be on Prime unless I subscribe to Prime. That kind of stuff happens all the time. So the other thing about Canada specifically is our Canadian networks, our TV networks, are struggling in this new field. I mean, CBC, I think, is doing some good work there. By the way, the publicly funded company. We're talking about advertising and sponsorship and all this stuff. Yes, this is happening on our publicly funded broadcaster, right, which our taxpayer dollars go towards, but also have to be partially funded by advertising. It's just the way it works. And I think they do a pretty good job for what it's worth. I think CBC has gotten much, much better than it used to be. It's gone through ups and downs over the years, but this right now, CBC is doing a good job on almost all levels, I think, as far as their programming is going.
There's always, when you're dealing with Canadian media, it's all its own ecosystem and its own flavor and its own, like, I think to someone from outside Canada, I'm not sure it'd be interesting to get somebody's take from outside Canada, because when you visit Quebec, what you realize is they have an entire entertainment industry there that never touches the rest of Canada. It's its own ecosystem. Every once in a while, there's a break, like Celine Dion came out of that, for instance. But that's the rare exception. So you go there and you kind of see, oh, look at, like, wow, like you can watch TV all day there and just go, wow, like this is just not like the kids programming, the news programming, it's all just its own, the entertainment and variety show programming. It's all its own thing. And I think we're used to CBC and Global and, what every one of these does. But I think if you're from outside of Canada, I think it would strike you as being somewhat quaint. Like it would, it just kind of it's kind of like the Canadian journalists are afraid to ask hard questions. I can't help but notice in recent
Fair enough.
and
Yep.
recent, like things like that. Things like that where you're kind of, the aggressiveness of American newscasters is quite different than the passiveness of Canadian ones. I
Mhm.
think it might be safe to say, maybe not all of them, but
Yeah, I'm also talking about their like TV and other kinds of programming, like radio programming and that kind of
yeah,
stuff. Like trying to think about
sure.
everything they're offering. Um, but yeah, like the interesting thing is that the major networks are struggling. Recently, Chorus Entertainment, which owns Global, lost a bunch of rights to a bunch of stuff like HGTV and a bunch of like
Yeah,
American brands that they are rebroadcasting. They lost a bunch of those to Rogers, which is another one of the big Canadian cable companies that now Rogers getting more into this because I don't think they were before, at least not here in our part of the country. Because as far as I knew, Bell Media owned a bunch of TV channels and Course owned a bunch of TV channels, but Rogers didn't own TV channels, and now it does. Because now it's trying to get into this part of it's got to own all aspects of the business, which is what these other companies
well,
do.
it's merged with Shaw.
Right. Yes. Merged with
Yeah,
Shaw. It's but again, all these big companies were in the monopolistic part of capitalism, late stage capitalism. As I've heard this stated a few times, and so we have just a few big companies running this stuff, and they're struggling. They're all very much struggling.
yeah,
Coors just laid off a bunch of people, 300 people or something like that
yeah.
last month. And of course, Bell, we heard they laid off many people. They're still trying to answer for that, or not doing a great job of answering for that. And they don't know how to survive. They don't know how to make money. And streaming services, I don't know if they're the answer, not for the Canadian. Like it's got to be. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's strange how like all these big streaming services like Netflix and well, what else is there other than Netflix? Prime,
Well, Disney
Apple
Plus.
TV, like
Yeah.
Apple TV Plus. They make good content, but I have no idea how many actually people subscribe to them. Like but the show, like I want to watch that Time Bandit show. That looks good.
Oh,
You
I
know.
heard. Did you hear Terry Gilliam stormed off the set? He was so angry at what they were doing.
Well, I mean, Terry Gilliam's kind of an asshole, right? Isn't he known to be an asshole? So I don't really care about that.
Yeah, but he made
So
Time
what?
Bandit.
Learn to let it go, buddy. It's not yours anymore.
He's only the asshole who helped make Monty Python and
So what
Time
is he
Bandit.
angry that they didn't use small people again? Is that what he
I
angry
don't
about?
know.
Or
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that's come out. What made him so angry?
huh.
But he apparently didn't like what
But they're clearly
Taika
putting a lot of
Waititi was
money into
doing.
that. Apple is like just going all but the thing is different about it is Apple, if we're talking about movies, will release things in the theater. They'll put the that Killers of the Flower Moon was in theaters, right? When it was up for doing its Oscar run. There was another one that came out recently that was in theaters. Um Crap. I don't remember what it was now. But they were promoting it. Oh, it was the I think it's that Moon, Fly Me to the Moon. Was that an Apple TV Plus one?
I don't know.
I think
Might
it
be.
bombed at the box office, so
Yeah.
they'll quickly pull that back to streaming. Another issue is that there's not enough time between theatrical release and streaming release. They're basically giving it a month and then putting it on their streaming services. So people are saying, "Why go to the theater?" That's definitely having an effect on the
Well,
theater
that's
sales.
well, this so Deadpool opens today,
Mhm.
and I was like, well, you know, I might maybe I'm interested in this. Why don't I go? So I'm like, let me check, and here, let me just see if I still have this. I was like, let's see what we got here. And so the options that popped up, and let's see if I wrote them down. Yeah. Okay, so IMAX, Screen X, Real 3D, or D box. And I was like, you know what? I don't care what any of the like let me just check what time the shows are. So like 3:40 p.m. I was like, well, which one is that? And I, you know what? I was so I just looked at the app and I was like, I'll just watch it at home. Like that's enough. Like I give up. And then there were that and what happened is what happened with everything now. Happens with everything. The first round of reviews are all fanboys. And they're like, this is the world's greatest movie. This is the best movie ever released. It's revived Marvel. It's the best. And then 2 days later, the kick in the ass comes where they're like, this isn't that good. This isn't it's not gonna save Marvel. It's boring. It's it's fan service. Like, and so you just get sick of it. You just get
Yeah.
sick of all of it. So you're like, I
None of
might
it
as
means
well.
anything to me.
No,
None of that, man. I
it
don't
doesn't.
listen to any
Yeah.
reviews. I will watch this movie if it looks like it does. And honestly, I gotta say it's their PR campaign more than anything that's making me want to go see it. These guys just look like they're having so much fun
Yeah.
together, doing all their interviews and doing hot ones and doing like guest hosting Jimmy Kimmel. It actually giving Jerry Seinfeld a run for his money as far as like promotional campaign goes. I think as far as like talk show appearances and stuff, they're doing all of the stuff. I've watched probably 4 interviews with Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds in the last couple of days.
Oh yeah, I
So
know they're everywhere.
yeah,
They're like Taylor Swift and Lady Gaga.
yeah. Well, those two
They
don't hang
can't.
out together though. These guys, I feel that they're really friends. Like you get that sense. And it just seems like they had a good time making this movie, and so you want to go see it and you want to
Yeah.
support them, right? So that's making me want to go. My kids don't really want to go, so I'll probably wait till
What?
Tuesday.
Why don't they
They
want to go?
well, I think my kids are burnt out on superhero movies. They're done with it. I think
That's
they
the oh
and
my God.
this I think part of the mistake, and we'll see how the movie is, but they are marketing this as a superhero movie. It does feel like another Deadpool movie. So this is Deadpool 3, basically. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily meant to be like a standalone thing. And I didn't see either of those other two Deadpool movies in the theater. I don't care about and Deadpool. My kids
Fucking
aren't big on Deadpool, so I guess I'll probably end up going to see this. I almost went to see Twisters last weekend. I almost
yeah.
did, and then I just couldn't get out the door. But
Good choice.
did you see it?
No, but you
Oh,
get I saw the trailer, which
well, I
means
know,
I
but I've
saw
seen
the
people say
movie.
it's good. I've
Yeah.
seen people who say they
Oh,
love it. So it seems to be very divided. And you also seem to hate the first Twister. So why would I take your
I
word
hate it
for it? So I don't know.
because
I
because
like the movie.
you have eyes in your head and you saw Twister's trailer too.
I didn't actually
And you
see the Twisters trailer.
oh,
I
you
did not
didn't
see the
see it?
trailer. No, I don't watch trailers anymore.
Well, if you well, good for you because that's the best way to make you want to go see the movie is to not see that trailer.
All right.
That trailer, I mean, look, the movie relies on boneheads driving into the twisters. And so here's my idea for a film Inferno, and where a bunch of Inferno chasers get together in cars and they drive into the middle of an inferno. That's my idea.
It doesn't happen in real life though. People do really chase storms in real life, Kenton. Like
Yeah, but
I've
this is better because they chase fire tornadoes. Huh? It's gonna be great. And
pitch it to sci-fi.
they're gonna drive right into it. They're
From
gonna
the
turn into
creators of
skeletons.
Sharknado. That's the next one after the
That's
Sharknado
that's
people,
right.
right?
That's right.
Okay, what were we talking about again? TV. Do
Fire
you
twister.
so let me ask you this. When you sit down to watch TV, do you like sit
Yeah.
down and go, what am I going to watch right now? Or do you have like a thing like it used to be you sat down just to turn it on and see what's
Yeah.
on? Now do you go into it with more of a plan or do you scroll around like aimlessly for a while before you settle on something or what's your kind of thing?
No, I usually know what I'm gonna watch. It. There's usually there if there's stuff coming out on a weekly basis, I give that priority because I don't want to get into a situation where I've got 15 episodes
Right.
to watch all at the same time when I'm in teaching school or something like it's just too unmanageable. So if it's coming out 1 hour a week, it's manageable, and so I'll start with those. And then there's usually like something that I want to watch on streaming, like Shogun on Disney Plus. I've sort of been chipping away, just finished that last night. And it's great, fantastic show. Um, so usually it's like a balance of the two, but I usually know like it's rare that I sit down and I go, I got nothing to watch. Like there's always something to watch. How about you?
I see. I try to be more organic and try to figure out what I want to watch when I'm sitting down. And I do watch a good amount of older TV. I do still really enjoy that. I was talking about for a while Happy Days. I was
Yeah.
watching. I'm currently watching The Munsters. I'm in the middle of watching The Munsters. It's fun. It's so much fun.
Oh yeah, it's great. I love
It
the
took me a
monsters.
while. The Munsters is very formulaic, but it really once you understand the bit, it's so funny, and you just appreciate everything they do on the show, like the effort they put in to like really do some cool special effects, which I'm sure it was a low budget show. Like it was not like they're not breaking the bank there, but anyway,
But it takes you
um,
back to that time.
it does. It very much does. As far as the newer stuff goes, I'm not gonna watch it on anybody's schedule anymore. Like I'm not watching the boys. I've not touched the boys season 4. I know it's done now, right? It's over.
It is.
And I just stay out of the conversation online. I find it's easy to do that. I can just like scroll past videos or whatever and scroll past posts about it. People are pretty good. It's not the wild days where people just posting stuff on Twitter. Remember those days, Kenton? You could just the minute after the show's over, what was the one with Game of Thrones, the purple wedding? Or
Oh
whatever, or the
yeah,
red wedding.
yeah.
It was like the minute it was over, it was spoiled on Twitter. It's like those people are more respectful now than they were. Maybe not everywhere, but
Twitter is like a ghost town these
I don't.
days, but
I
it's
don't.
also the summer. Social media is always deader in the summer.
Is that the problem with Twitter?
There's no.
It's the
Oh,
summertime.
oh yeah, that's part
It's
of
like
it.
the mall. The mall always got
Yeah.
dead in the summertime as well.
I think people just got sick of the misinformation, of the spoilers, of the trolls, of everything that makes the internet terrible. And
Yeah.
so there's just less of that stuff. I think people's tolerance for it is over. And with the American election coming, I think, we're not fully into it yet, but we'll get there. And we'll see some variation of what we've seen in the past. And that's like, how could anybody have the stomach for that? It's just, especially with AI now.
I find it interesting that cable people have kind of turned their back on cable now as an option. Like they're not cable companies are not recovering, it seems. When I was at
Yeah.
CTV, I heard a lot of stuff about this is from like the higher up, it's at the head office about how the pandemic made businesses shy to advertise and they were going to come back. I don't think that's happened for them, and that they're continuing to struggle with how to bring people in to watch these shows. And CTV,
Yeah.
like if you go on the CTV app, it's you can tell it's the same. It's the same company that owns Crave, right? They have the same crappy interface, and Crave is bad. CTV is also bad, and you can watch a number of things. I can watch Three's Company on CTV. That's really great. I can watch some older shows. There's a couple of things I can watch like one episode of, but a lot of the stuff is still. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. A lot of the stuff is still centered around pushing people back to that cable TV box, right? They're like, you have to have a subscription in order to access this content. They are still doing that, and that was an issue. I know that was an issue when I was at the company. What I was going to say was that it's interesting what I'm seeing about, people are saying goodbye to cable, but we're also seeing a lot of these bundles come up where they'll bundle together. You say Disney Plus and Hulu come together in the US. Well, why doesn't that happen in Canada, right? There's a I see bundles where it's like Disney Plus and Prime, or Disney Plus and this. When you go on Prime, like the actual platform, you see all of the streaming services there, even Crave, even Apple TV. They're all kind of available on one thing. So they're trying to get us back to that one platform with all the things in one place, because otherwise it's just too many different things to go on. But they're all trying to do this. They're all trying to make us like it's basically recreating the cable platform in a different way, right? It's the same kind of thing. And it's just frustrating that I just kind of wish that we just had stuck with cable and just leave it the way it is. Like it was
Well,
fine. The I like the recording. I like that kind of stuff, being able to skip the ads. They really didn't like that. I think that PVR thing is was here and gone so quickly. I don't think advertisers liked it at all.
no, of
People
course
had the
not.
ability to skip ads, like completely skip the ads. So they I think the thing about YouTube and their whole thing with skipping the ads is it gives people the illusion of skipping an ad, but it
Yeah.
makes you pay attention to the ad, is what it does. And so that is what they're, and then what you do with that is up to you. And some people waste those few seconds that they have, but some people can really use that effectively. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just we used to be able to say there's traditional media and there's digital media. Traditional media does this, digital media does that. Whereas now they kind of do the same thing.
It's all the
Like
same.
like it's interruption based media is the oldest trick in the book. It's like back like we're consuming stuff in a new way digitally, but we're seeing the same thing that was wrong with the initial thing. And so that's that's where the problem comes in. People just get irritated by it, and it becomes you get to a place like sort of like I am with Deadpool and films where you just go, forget it. What's the use anyway? Like, what's the point? Where you just give up. There's too much, right? And I think the other thing is I've seen like thousands of movies in my lifetime. So to be able like, oh, we've got the back catalog, it does nothing for me because usually that means all the films that I've seen, and in many cases multiple times. So
Right.
to me, that's not a sell. For me, it's
Right.
got to be like, what are you producing that I want to see? And Netflix got the huge head start in that. And I remember it was Arrested Development that made me get it. I didn't care about Netflix until they were creating their own content.
Right.
And then I did care about it. But
But
that's so for me, that's what's necessary.
yeah, I understand that. And that's the difference between a paid streaming service and a free streaming service, I think. Like
Right.
Netflix does have an okay selection of movies, like older movies, not great though. Like I would never go to Netflix to look for like a classic film if I wanted to watch something like actually just watch Breakfast at Tiffany's for the first time this week.
No.
And so I probably wouldn't find that on Netflix. I actually have it on DVD. And actually that's what I'm finding for a lot of movies like that. I'm finding they're not available or they're just available like for a rental or a rental, like a purchase fee or whatever. But it's difficult to find them on these actual streaming services that I'm already paying for, which is another reason why I canceled Netflix. So yeah, not a lot of movies there, but you're right. They are putting together good original content, and that's where they kind of differentiate themselves. So we have those platforms that are creating content, and then we have those platforms that are basically just repurposing other content that's already been created for other reasons, and so they can exist kind of together because one is being paid for and one isn't. But
Yeah.
there's only so many that people can pay for, right? There's only so many of these services, and meanwhile the smaller countries, I would say probably a lot of other countries like Canada are in the same boat where there's not enough people to sustain. Like you can't Crave, it probably does not have enough subscribers to sustain itself because it's Canadian, because there's not enough people in Canada to really make a lot of money doing that. So they probably have to, I don't know, they like it's all Bell Media, so they must have other things they do. They have the CTV app, they probably have other apps they do as well to try and get people to watch, but I don't know.
Well, a hit show in Canada used to be about 1 million viewers. Now I'm sure it's less than that
Sure.
because of the nicheification of the media. But and that what like Canadians are charming in their viewing habits in that they still like Survivor. Anything with Sheldon in it does pretty
But
well.
again, if you get Stack TV, you can get all that stuff. I see it
Yeah,
advertised to me all the time. You don't need cable for that. You can just get it. And Stack TV, I think, is a good example of like what that could be because they also have like a channel guide where you can go on and just see what's streaming. Where you can
yeah,
get all these are all channels that exist on cable TV. So you get all those channels, and you can also get all the shows on demand. I think that's great. I'm not really interested in any of that content right now. It's all very mainstream stuff, and I'm not really looking for that. But at some point, I'm sure there will be a show that'll bring me back to that, and I will subscribe and for at least a month. you know,
yeah, for
but that's
sure.
not good for them. They don't like that, right? They don't like people churning through their subscriptions. They want me to subscribe for life, and I'm not just going to do that, you know, forever. I'm just going
But
to, go back and forth.
the other thing that's different than what it used to be is television was a family event where the family sits down. And usually dad would say, we're watching this. And the kids would go, but we want to watch that. And dad would go, yeah, when you buy a TV, you can watch that. And you'd
It's
be
right.
like, oh, and so you'd watch whatever it is. And then in the end, you'd end up probably liking whatever it was.
Sure, and it was fun to watch it with your family
Yeah.
too,
Oh
right? That
yeah.
was a good experience.
Jeopardy,
Yep.
Jeopardy, the ultimate
Oh
family
yes.
viewing experience. And Wheel of Fortune to some extent too. But now TV has become a solitary
Well, now
It
everybody
is.
has their own TV.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own
Yeah.
little TV. And even like when my kids come home, they're all off in their rooms watching their
Yep.
videos and stuff on their own shows. I'm trying to do more. We're gonna have a movie night tonight, actually. We're gonna watch something. So I'm gonna try to do more stuff like that where we bring us all together in front of one big screen in the living room instead of all on our
Yeah.
little individual screens. But yes, it's very much the case. It's not as much of a communal event as it once
Yeah.
was. And I would say that's even the case in the movie theater. Let's do a separate conversation about the
Yeah.
movie theater. Do you think you're gonna go see a movie in the next couple of weeks?
It's possible that I'll see Deadpool
Okay.
if I can figure out which of the many formats that I can choose between at 3:40 in the afternoon.
I'm
Which is
tempted to do I'm tempted to try the D-bag seats because I feel like they'd have some fun vibrations in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, right? They do something interesting with that. But I don't know. Well, let's try and watch it and then we can have a conversation about it in 2 weeks after we come back. We can talk about going to the movies and what's
yeah,
fundamentally changed about that and why
yeah.
that's failing. I've thought about that a lot over the last couple months. I think I've got some good thoughts about that.
Well, it turns out I saw the early box office returns for Deadpool, and it looks like it will be a hit.
Of course.
It's not, yeah, but it's nothing like it used to be where you would get a movie earning $200 million in the first 2 days.
That was never the norm, though. We'll get into this. That
No,
was
no,
never that was
but
just a brief moment. The
yeah,
Marvel thing fueled that, and but 90 million used to be decent. Remember Spider-Man got 90 million, and that was like everyone freaked out over that. The first Spider-Man movie,
yeah, but
that
we're
was a big
talking
deal.
about weekends, and like now it's not unheard of for a hit movie to make $15 million, like on an opening day or
I
something, and
think that
that's
would be
like
a disappointment.
not anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I just think like that's what's happened in movie theaters. Like it's just harder to get people out. Whereas Deadpool and Wolverine is like the last kind of mainstream. It's got a little edginess because it's rated R. That also means that some younger viewers can't go.
Is it
So
really R?
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
wow,
I don't
I'm
know.
impressed.
In the US it is. In Canada,
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know
we're lenient. We're
yeah.
more lenient. We're okay
Yeah,
with
in
it.
Canada
We're
it's
okay with the
probably
sex stuff.
in Canada, it's like everyone can go with a parent. Like that's basically what any adult movie was,
Yeah,
except when there was an X rating, I guess. But I don't know when that was not
Midnight
when
Cowboy. How often does that happen?
19 that was like 1980 or like it was the last of that, I think. Like
Anyway,
even Tarzan with naked Bo Derek, kids could go to by themselves.
right, right.
So I don't know. Like yeah, Canadian is more permissive. So we'll see. Like all of these factors come into play.
Mhm.
But if you're gonna get a mainstream hit, it's gonna be Deadpool. So we'll see how that goes.
All right, well, let's leave it there. I think that, we'll keep an eye on the streaming. I'm looking forward. I'm going to watch the Olympics, probably some of the Olympics on CBC, and we'll see how that goes. But I'm just, I think the cable companies have to realize what's happening and shift to streaming. Then I think Stack TV is one of those things for one of those companies, but the other ones are not doing the same thing still.
Yeah.
I'm still frustrated by my former employer, Bell. Not that they, would listen to me to work there, but I just think that they could be doing so much more. They're still not on TikTok. They're still not on YouTube really, and everybody else, even global, will live stream to YouTube now, right? They
Yeah.
realize that that's where people are. That's where people are going for their news. You have to be there. And
Yeah.
they're also live streaming to TikTok, by the way. I opened when Biden addressed people, whatever, a couple days ago or whatever that was. First thing it was when I opened it up was he was on TikTok. So this stuff is everywhere. You don't need a cable subscription anymore to get your news.
Kamala Harris started her TikTok account yesterday.
I saw that, yes, and I
Yes.
saw that it's probably the most viewed TikTok
Yeah.
of all time. She's gonna be a huge hit. She's buying into that stuff big time. They love that. They love
They've
that
got
about her.
that
She's
she's got
brat, as they say.
yeah, she's got the coconut tree meme
Yeah.
where so between those two things, now she pretty much is obligated to be on TikTok.
Well, and she's
And
yeah.
so she is, and it's easy to make Trump the old candidate just by showing up on TikTok and showing people that you know how it works.
Yes.
You know it's there.
Or you have somebody who can show you how it works. Somebody
Even
who's
better.
angry. Yeah, that's right. All
Yeah.
right, let's finish up with some recommendations. Because we haven't done this in a while. So, what do you want to recommend people watch or
Well,
read or whatever?
I'll just do a one that I already mentioned, and that's Shogun on Disney Plus. It's the most expensive show ever made for the FX network
Oh,
originally. And it's beautiful. It's shot in British Columbia, I found out. I was like, this must be shot in Japan. This must be a fortune, but apparently not. it's great. It's like back to a day when TV dramas took you into deep places and took their time getting somewhere and made you think. So it's 10 episodes. I've seen all 10. It is very compelling, and I understand they've been, I think, okayed for season 2 and 3, which I think they're shooting at the same time.
Mm.
And it's great drama, expensive, and almost at times almost like a Game of Thrones a little bit, perhaps.
Yeah,
So
I watched the first
good.
episode and I
Yeah,
just didn't have a chance
yeah,
to come back to it, but I did like that first episode. It's very well shot, and I did have that feeling as well as kind of like a Game of Thrones feeling of like
yeah,
the epicness of that. It's funny because when it was going, that was another one they did it week by week, I think when it was first coming out.
yeah.
And I was, and one of my friends on TikTok was like super disappointed with the ending of it for some reason. Didn't say why, but that kind of turned me off. And when I see somebody have a reaction like that, I'm like, oh, maybe I won't watch it. But yeah, more people I knew liked it and said it was good, so I did want to watch it, but just haven't got around to it yet. But yeah, it's interesting
Oh,
how that happens, eh?
yeah. No, very much so.
Everyone's
What you got?
everyone's good.
What have you got for us?
I'm gonna do another book because I've been reading a lot more. I mean, that's one of my goals is to read a lot more this summer, and I went and took a few books out of the library the other day, both kind of Star Trek based authors, but I haven't finished this or started the second one yet. The first one I've started on is Making It So, the autobiography of Patrick Stewart, Sir Patrick Stewart, of course known as Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek: The Next Generation, and also Professor X in the X-Men films. I think that's the other role that he became synonymous with. And I haven't finished the book yet. I'm only about halfway through, but it's just such an interesting story. He has a really interesting life. He came from like nothing, like just kind of poverty, abject poverty in northern England, and he worked as an actor for a good chunk of time before becoming, like, he was like my age, close to my age, 46 years old when he finally got The Next Generation. So it's such an interesting story about somebody who just kept going and kept plugging away at something and finally broke through and got the fame that everyone's looking for, right? So, and I just love him. I love him in everything, even like all the stuff he does. Excalibur, every time I watch that,
Yeah,
I'm like, oh yeah, I always forget he's in there, and then he pops up in Excalibur and he pops up
yeah.
in other things, and he's always fun to see in everything. So Patrick Stewart's awesome. So Making It So is the name of the book. I took it out of the library. You can probably find it on Kindle or whatever as
Oh,
well.
I'm sure.
It's a good one.
Probably used bookstores. I
Sure. Well,
bet.
no, it's not that old. It just came out last year.
Oh yeah.
It's fairly new, yeah. And so it's all fairly, like, he talks about pandemic stuff. He talks
Hmm.
about his experiences just as like just being as part of a Star Trek and that whole thing. Right? He was here. I don't remember when he was here. 10 years ago, maybe. I feel like.
$200 for a photo.
Yeah, I know, I know.
Yeah. That was the first one that went in that direction.
Well, I think it was at all the same time they went in that direction, right? All of a
Yeah.
sudden, Cindy turned around and they were charging a lot more for those photos.
Well, it was
But
free before that. It was
it
all
was,
free
yes,
before that.
that's
So
right. So
yeah.
check out that. Check out if you're interested in that. And that's all I have to recommend this week.
All right.
All right, that's gonna do it for this episode of the Media Nerds. I'm Dan Dadabonker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the door hit you in the ass.